Hey there, it's Kyle with your website review. And first thing I wanted to say is thanks for the gig and thanks for your patience while I got through my long list of orders here that I've suddenly had in the past week or two. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Grab your notepad or pen and paper, or whatever works for you, and you can take some notes. This is going to be a pretty straightforward review, mainly because you're doing a lot of things right. And sometimes I have reviews that go on and on and on just because there's a lot to talk about. But you have something that seems to be successful. You got a niche. You got something that's specific. It looks like you have a lot of fun with it. Your design's solid. It has all of the main components of what I would consider to be a successful website. If I were charged with redesigning the site, if you said, "Hey, this site isn't working," there might be some changes I would do. But I think it's important not to reinvent the wheel and to, if something isn't broken, don't fix it, sort of thing. If you know what I mean. Uh, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to make a good thing better or a good thing great. So let's talk about some things in regards to that. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the site is a little busy. Granted, you do have this is an e-commerce setup. So ideally, the orientation of the site will always be to lead towards sales pages. If you have supportive pages of those sales pages, of those product pages, they should always end with a call to action to check out a product, to check out the store, that sort of thing. It looks like you've got a lot of good stuff, though. Again, you're building a culture around your business, so that's why I can understand you have pages for this and that and those sort of things. But always keep that in mind. If there's one thing I wanted to leave you with, is consider your site organization and limit people's decisions they have to make in general, because sometimes it can lead to something like, I got too many decisions here, so I actually end up not making a decision, or I'll leave the site, or I won't quite go as deeply into the site as I maybe would have were I directed to go to certain pages. So, and that's really largely dependent on your goals for the business, for what it is that you really want people to do when they come to the site. It looks like you have a list of parts and services, and I don't know, it looks like you're selling tire machines or kits. There's obviously quite a spectrum there. So decide what's important. Get that hierarchy figured out. Ideally, we want them to buy the machine off us. Do you guys offer installation and setup? That's the next thing I wanted to talk about. As far as you're doing this, it seems successful. You seem to be having a following. Where are you going to expand your products into? What about white glove setup as far as install? That sort of thing. Bring it to your house, fine tune it. I'm sure these things have a certain amount of calibration that needs to happen. And I'm sure that there are plenty of pinball enthusiasts that are willing to pay the money to hire experts like yourself to do that sort of thing. So maybe that's something you've already considered. Maybe it's something you already do. I've went through half a dozen pages on your site and just sort of get a feel for what you have going on. But I didn't find that specifically. So it might be something you want to think of. I don't know who in your organization wants to go make house calls, but again, that could be a very high-end service. I could even see a bit of one of those spin-off reality TV shows happening of the Pinball Wizard sort of thing, or the Ministry of Pinball, whatever you want to call it. He heads to these nice houses and sets up these these neat pinball machines or slash game rooms, and there's something to be said for the magic of that. And people that have a little money to spend are, I'm sure, willing to invest that in their entertainment, in their family centers, in their homes, and that sort of thing. And for the prices these things go for, $5,000-6,000, as I was seeing, or maybe even more, I think there's a market for it. So that might be something you want to think about. And the sky's the limit. I wouldn't ever limit yourself too far as well, nobody would pay that or whatever. I think you might be surprised. So I know that doesn't have a lot per se to do with your website, but it does have a lot to do with your business, your branding, and your products. So moving on, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with these image scrollers. They really need to be done right to really be effective. To be perfectly honest with you, the dot matrix sort of font it's a little hard to read for how fast that thing scrolls. Even the content, the words that you use, don't necessarily convey a lot of information. These image scrollers, to be used properly, one, they need solid text as far as what's happening, and the image behind it needs to be very descriptive as to what it's about. Maybe people within the pinball world know what some of these things mean, but I'm not sure you're going to get much response from those the way they are now. I'm not sure if your analytics would reflect that, or if you even have an idea of how many click-throughs these are getting, but you begin to get the idea of what I mean, how it's just a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit nebulous. And the biggest problem I have with all of that is that it's such a huge, gigantic, most important piece of real estate on your website, basically. There's not really a more important part of your site than here. The language is cool. It does take up some space here, but that's acceptable. But by the time you get to this, I haven't even seen a product yet, and I've been on your page now for 20 seconds. Do you see what I mean about that? I'm still trying to absorb this. That's going to give you a higher bounce rate. There's no doubt about it. But if this were up above the fold, immediately they're going to know what it is, what you do, why you do it, and how you do it, and that sort of thing. You get the who, what, when, where, whys answered a lot more quickly when this monstrosity is gone. And I understand it sort of gives a bit of an update, kind of gives the site an updated feel, but I think these being higher would be much better. I'd move that menu up above this, that sort of thing, or you can even have the products above the menu. That's not that big of a deal, but such a huge piece of real estate, the most important real estate that you have. Unless you're directing traffic to very specific landing pages via your AdWords and your ads that you're doing, I would highly consider updating and changing this, to a different setup. You can even shrink this down by about half, maybe have some products on the left or right, that sort of thing. But really all you need are the language thing's a little bit big in my opinion. The design is neat, it's clever, it's pretty cool, that whole thing, but it's not. If you think of how a newspaper is written versus how a novel is written, when you read a novel, hi, this is Sally, I'm in my house, and we're getting married soon, and Joe's my husband, and I have flowers out in the front yard, and there's a dog on the porch, real all these details and stuff, right? Well, read a newspaper once or an ad. It's the highlight, the climax is at the top. It's the first thing it hits you with, and that's what you want to do for your website. You want to do what's called a reverse pyramid format, which is just like how newspapers and ads and magazines are written and that sort of thing. So at this point, you're almost doing, it's a bit of a novel experience where you're having, this is just a little bit of detail here, and your analytics will tell you, is it really necessary to accommodate this right here to this degree? As far as being, you want an international site, but most web browsers will have automatic translation systems anyhow, so that might be covered. This might be a little bit redundant. Again, considering that you have 7 seconds to 30 seconds to capture that visitor before they leave and become a bounce, and obviously you lose money because you're paying for traffic, so you have a critical moment to capture the attention of that visitor and to say, hey, this is what we do. And unfortunately, in a world where it's tough to get out to scroll, in a world where a lot of people don't scroll. That's sort of the training that I've had is that people they don't like to think when they're browsing the web. So they only like to think when they find something that they feel will be valuable to them to pay attention to. People go into this sort of browsing skimming mode where they're not reading everything. We tend to think of every detail and nook and cranny on our site when somebody comes to it, but most of that actually never really even registers on their awareness. It's a pretty neat subject. It's kind of fascinating if you're into psychology, but there's a few things they go for. The headlines, the pictures, and the logo, a few things like that, but it's not very much. And surprisingly, the logos aren't even that important. The headline is the biggest one, hands down, hands down, hands down. The supportive text under the headline is secondary. The image to the right or left of the headline, the supportive image, which could be your products, in a bit of a scroller, in a bit of a display like you have here, will be the next thing that's important. So the headline, the supportive text, and the product or images, the offer is basically what it is. I do recommend, and this is something you are doing on a lesser level, you do have a name and email address, subscribe, 50 bonus points. I thought that was awesome because it's good to offer something for them, but there's no real reason why you have to have a specific offer. 50 bonus points is fun. That's an easy way to give a bit of a incentive, so to speak, in a fun way to get opt-ins. How is this working for you? Are you getting 10% of your traffic signing up for this? If you're not, you're probably losing money and losing potential sales through a lead management campaign, which will automatically drip feed valuable content and start a conversation with your potential customers and subscribers, that sort of thing. Of course, as you know, you guys seem to get this pretty well, that you have a passion-based business. It's not all about giving them offers every time they hear from you, but it's about the culture, it's about the community, it's about the passion, those sorts of things which you can weave offers in throughout that organically. That's the beauty of doing a passion project like this, is that when you're just talking about what you love and about this new and cool stuff that's happening, by the way, we just happen to sell it and it's available in our web store, so go check it out. It's not a hard sale almost ever. So if you're not getting a response rate from this like you want to be, I would suggest bringing this more to prominence throughout the site. And again, that's where your site architecture and hierarchy comes from. There's a few things that you want people to do on the site. Naturally, you want them to buy. Rarely does that happen on your first visit, especially on high-end things like this. You have a long sales cycle. Maybe people come today to buy a manual, but probably what you really want them to buy is a pinball kit or a restoration or whatever that is for you. You have your hierarchy of services that you provide. In my opinion, the idea is to move them through that ladder as they become a more and more involved and an experienced customer with you, and they become a customer for life. They recruit their friends and they bring them in, and life is easy, life is fun. So you can do that with lead management systems, and do that with your email, a name and email address system. If you bring it to more prominence, if you're not getting response down here, it is almost an afterthought at that point. But it's probably one of the most important pieces on your website. It's a bit of an upside down sort of thing, a backwards sort of thing, where one of the more important pieces are at the bottom. One of the other important pieces are below the fold, so to speak, which is below the scroll mark. There's those sorts of things where you might want to think about reorganizing your priorities on your website, if you know what I mean. When you're passionate about something, when your soul's into this, it can actually be confusing. It can actually be a little bit distorting when you're thinking of, okay, what's most important? Because you have a lot of things vying for your attention when you're passionate about something as far as what's important. Oh, well, I realize the offer's important, but I really like these graphics that we had made. They're really slick and they're funny, and they definitely are. But is that really what matters at the end of the day as far as growing your business and that sort of thing? I think you can maintain the fun aspect. I think you can do all of that stuff that you do, but do it in a more effective way by reorganizing and putting a little bit more of a hierarchy in regards to what you want people to do, which in my opinion, believe it or not, the first priority is to get them to sign up for your mailing list because, like I said, they're not likely to become customers the first time they visit your site. That's why it is imperative that you capture as much of your traffic as possible via your lead capture. And there are sorts of ways to do that. The bonus points thing might be enough. There's different ways to test that too. How far into that you want to go, I don't know, but you can do different tests as far as this offer gets more leads, this offer gets less, that sort of thing. Again, the image scroller, chop that up, bring that down into size, bring some products up above the fold, bring an offer up above the fold. I'd like to see more faces, some more real faces. This is neat, it's clever, it's fun, it brings personality, but I know throughout the site I've seen people, I don't know if are these you guys here? I didn't have a chance to read the articles, but where's the company founders, that sort of thing. I'd like to see a little bit about that. These, this is great, but again, I just don't think it's serving you as much as some other content like I've been mentioning up here will. So that is definitely my suggestion on that. As far as traffic goes, you want to think about your content strategy. Paying for ads is great as long as it's sustainable. There's always a bit of a payoff curve to that. You can pay so much and get so many ads, but the more you pump into that, the more it seems to sort of, it's a bit of a law of a diminishing return sort of thing. That's why having a multifaceted strategy as far as 1, blogging for organic traffic, 2, paid traffic, and 3, offline marketing as far as doing things that are in the industry but not quite on the internet, or maybe pinball a forum, where are the communities? Who are the people that are in this world? Who are the influencers in the pinball world? Are there any successful pinball bloggers that are historians of this sort of thing? Can you get involved with them? Can you get involved with the influencers of your industry? That's what's really going to count, aside from your own internal strategies of pay-per-click and blogging and things like that. So think about that. That's going to give you a well-rounded strategy. You're not going to have to rely on any one source of traffic for your lifeblood of your business. That gives you a little bit of breathing room. You don't have to rely on one or one or the other so much. So that's the kind of stuff you want to think about as you grow. I see you're doing a lot of video. You got a lot of video in your content. That's fantastic. Keep that up. Video is a powerful tool. Do you have your own page, or are you just using a video, a video that you find on the internet? The reason I ask are pages like this, where you have a YouTube video, but is this your YouTube channel? Is this your video, or is this a video that somebody else made, maybe on the web? If it's yours, terrific. If you have a YouTube channel, that's great. You can use these to, let's see if this will take me to the page. Jersey Jack Pinball. Okay, so this is a company, this is a supplier of yours. It's great that you have video, that's better than nothing for sure. But if you have one of these in your shop, that sort of thing, grab the camera, make a video yourself, do a little bit of insight and overview into that. Hey, this is the new product, this is what we have going on, it's got this and that, and come to our store and find out more about it. And then once you put that on your channel on YouTube, and maybe you're already doing this, but I'm going to go ahead through with this anyhow. And then here, this is where you want to put your keyworded content as far as the keywords that you use, and all the different tags and that sort of thing, and of course your headline. The headline can get pulled in a Google search very easily and get you ranking in organic traffic via when Google pulls videos in their YouTube searches, which they do often. So think about that. YouTube strategy, different social media strategies. I see you have a Facebook page. You definitely have a room for growth as far as your social side of things, as far as building community, as far as bringing people involved in that aspect sort of thing. So some things to think about. That's about all I have for this video. Again, we were kind of more in the strategy level as far as that goes, as opposed to executing on your website per se. But those are the things you want to think about as far as making changes. If we need to talk more about your content strategy, what kind of headlines to use, what kind of content to use, I am available for those sorts of conversations. So let me know if you have any questions or any feedback. I know I talk quickly, so if you need to go back through the video and watch it again, it's at your convenience. So I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for your patience waiting for this gig, and I hope it was worth your while. So talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.